We'll go on three. One, two, three. What's up, everybody? This is the PlayStation Lifestyle Underground Podcast. We are an unofficial podcast of PlayStationLifestyle.net. I'm Hugo Stiglitz. You can find me on PSN as Hugo Stiglitz underscore 420 and Xbox Live as THNK4URSELF. And yeah, you guys want to say what's up?
Sure. I'm Jordash. You can find me on the internet and PSN as Jordash7K.
And I'm Brian Mishala. You can find me on the comments and forums as Brian Mishala and on PlayStation and Nintendo networks as CloudStrike768. Message me if you want the friend code.
Awesome. So yeah, lately I've been playing a few different things. F1 for one. I've also been playing some Doom. I've actually been chipping away at some of the trophies and stuff. Gonna try to get the platinum in that, which is not super difficult. It seems. I'm only
You
a
just gotta
few
have the
away.
walkthrough to go with it.
I don't even really need it because I mean, like if you get the upgrades and stuff, like it tells you where all most of the secrets are. There's only been a couple things where I actually needed a walkthrough. Um, but
I would
like
knock out multiplayer ASAP before it's completely dead.
actually, I did that the other night, and there's still a lot of people playing. Um,
Surprising.
I'm not. I'm not too surprised. It's not that bad.
It took me
Um,
several hours to do it when the game was relatively brand new.
Really?
really?
Yeah.
It took me maybe about I don't know
Probably four
five
or
or
five
six
matches?
games.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, for me, it took about an hour to get a game.
Oh, did you get it when the game was brand
That's
new?
weird.
Pretty new, yeah.
Maybe they had wonky servers that
They could
weren't
have had
on the up and
matchmaking
up.
issues. Yeah.
Possibly.
Um. Oh yeah, and then on PC, I finished up Assassin's Creed 3. I also start. Well, I finished up Black Ops 1. I don't know if that was I said that last week, but then I started playing Black Ops 2 campaign. And I've also started playing Assassin's Creed Unity. And on the Vita, I've been playing Lara Croft Go, which is another one I'm pretty close to the platinum. I've just got like I think 2 levels left to do and get all the collectibles, and then I'm good. So yeah, hopefully I'll cross into level 26 because I'm at like 98% on level 25. So right on the edge of that. But that's pretty much all I've been playing. What you guys been playing lately?
See, I every Sunday I play a few hours of Battleborn with my buddy. I still do that. Um, yeah, there's. You thought Doom was empty? Oh man, like nobody plays Battleborn. But it's still a fun game. It's a lot better than it was when it came out, and I'll keep defending it every week. The big thing I've been playing this week is finally diving into Metal Gear Solid 5, which if you want to make the game a lot harder for yourself, uh, you just like pick up and do like one mission a week because the controls are like very complex and you'll think you're going to shoot a guy, but then you like run up and just like hit the deck in front of him and do nothing, and you got to restart from your checkpoint. But actually, sitting down and playing it for a few days in a row, you don't just like fall on your face anymore, and that makes it a bit easier. I also
Yep, it
got
does.
yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
I also got Final Fantasy IX, and I've been playing through that with the wife together. And I also got Agents of Mayhem, which I've been playing through, which is not as good as I was expecting it to be. It's all right. It's not certainly not great. One of my biggest pet peeves is when there's like frame rate drops, and it drops it all the time.
It's
Yeah,
tough.
Settlement, yep.
yeah, that always bugs me. So I don't know if I'll get around to finishing that. But then, last but not least, I finally got around to Hugo's racing recommendation of tabletop racing. I played into that over the weekend, and that is good. I'm gonna go around and finish all everything up in that game. I really enjoyed it. It was good.
Nice.
And yeah, that was it for me. I was playing Final Fantasy IX till about half an hour ago. So that's it for me.
Good choice. I was also playing some Final Fantasy IX, uh, knocking out a little bit of my Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana, playing some free Knack 2, um, some Samus Returns on 3DS, still a good amount of Destiny. I don't know if I mentioned that I finished Danganronpa 2 or not, but I did that and knocked out the Danganronpa 3 demo. So I'm ready for Danganronpa 3, which just came out, but I've been watching a whole lot of anime, actually the last half a week or so, to catch myself up to Danganronpa 3, because there is a sequel anime that's kind of a prequel to this third game. So just because the story is pretty dense as it is, I just wanted to knock that out and make sure I wasn't completely lost when I started playing the game. So I've been doing a lot of that while playing some of the fantastic SteamWorld Dig 2 on my Switch.
Cool. So our news stories this week. Well, for one, they announced the PlayStation Plus free games for the next month, and I would say they're definitely, this might be the best month we've had in a long time. PS4, the two games are Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, and Amnesia Collection, which is also supposed to be a great game. I've played a little bit of it on PC. I couldn't quite get into it, partly because it was on PC, and it only had mouse and keyboard controls, and I've never been comfortable with those. But obviously it's on PS4. It has full gamepad support. And a couple other games. Like I know there was like for PS3, there was like a Monster Jam game. There was Hustle Kings as well for PS3, not the PS4 version. And then a couple Vita games. I want to say Skyforce was the name of one of them,
Yeah,
and I don't remember.
Skywars is good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I actually
Oh,
had it
Hue.
on my
Hue's the other
yeah
one,
Hue.
sorry.
That looked like a nice platformer, Hue too. I looked a little YouTube video of that. It looks nice.
Yeah?
But Skyforce Anniversary, if you guys haven't played it or don't really know what it is, I actually had it on my tablet and played it through that. But yeah, it looks really, really nice. It's like one of those old school top-down vertical scrolling shooters, and it's really good. And it
Hmm.
has couch co-op if you have someone to play with. So I'm looking forward to playing that with the wife too. Yeah, that's if I wasn't playing Metal Gear Solid 5 right now, I would be super excited for that. Which I already bought Metal Gear Solid 5 twice. So
Sweet.
once on 3 and the 4. But otherwise, I'm still really excited for Skyforce. It's going to be a really good game.
Brian, do you have Metal Gear Solid 5 digitally or the disc?
I got the collector's edition.
So the disc, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I also have the disc. We still do benefit from it being a PlayStation Plus by not having to put the disc in the PS4 anymore.
Man, it's I mean, it's such a good thing to not have to put it in disc. I hate it. I hate putting in discs now.
It's been
I
the story with the last couple of PlayStation Plus games for me too. Until Dawn, Infamous, and Just Cause 3, I had all three games on disc. So like I download them for free, and it's nice to not have to switch the disc. You're totally right.
Yeah,
What
I
if
probably go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna say, out of completely pointless principle, I'm not gonna be adding it to my library because fucking Konami in the ass with something rusty and STD covered.
Good
But it's
times.
great for people who haven't played it.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean it was a game of the year candidate. Those don't often come out for PS Plus.
oh, it
It
was
was
definitely
never
a game of the year.
Yeah.
It's much better than Witcher, in my opinion.
I never played Witcher
Um,
3.
they're both really good games. It's a tough call. I
I'm
You could have
uh,
gone either way. It's either stealth action open world or dense lore RPG open world.
I just feel like Metal Gear Solid nailed it more with the gameplay. And I don't know, I just personally enjoy it more. And like I even really like the story, although a lot of people complain about it just because it was missing a certain part.
Yeah, Witcher 3 was finished when it came out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I still hate to call Metal Gear Solid 5 unfinished just because they did such an amazing job. Considering what they had to cut out, they did an incredible job with it. Like, so, I really hate to call it unfinished because it's as polished as anything has ever been. On day one, it barely required any actual patches that would fix the game. Like, it was mostly just to add DLC and stuff. So I cannot give them enough credit, Kojima Productions, that is, not Konami. Fuck Konami. But I just preferred it
Yeah,
more than Witcher 3 for sure. But yeah, of course, Witcher 3 ended up getting like a million Game of the Year awards. Although it's funny, like the game that got better review scores is Metal Gear Solid 5. But that's neither here nor there. And then Amnesia. I don't know if you guys will play that, but I had bought it on sale, and I was finally going to play it next month. And sure enough, it's free now. I didn't pay much though. I think I paid less than 10. I think it might have been like $8. So don't
Yeah,
care.
I'm not gonna touch it either.
It's
I
it's
generally don't like any of those horror
yep.
games. Not for me.
Horror, so no thanks. But great for people who do like it.
Yep.
Just not my cup of whiskey.
I think the PS3 game Monster Jam. I think that's like a really easy trophy
So
game. So I might poke into that one day, but I don't know. I don't. That PS3 just collects dust. I'll never turn that thing back on.
yeah. And then our other news story is a pretty disappointing one, but Gravity Rush 2, which came out at the beginning of this year, is already having its servers shut down. And they're not even like gameplay servers or matchmaking it's nothing like that. It's just leaderboard stuff and like being able to send people challenges. And even that Sony is too cheap to keep running. And I think it's really disgraceful. Like the game hasn't even been out for a year. Even if it had been out for a couple years, the servers are so simple. There's really no excuse for shit. Like don't put that sort of stuff in your product if you're not willing to support it for at least a year or two. Like, I mean, it's just ridiculous to me. What do you guys think? I like, some people might say that, oh, because of the sales weren't good enough, that they have an excuse. I don't see it that way. Like, you don't advertise your game and put it on the back cover of your game if you're just going to take it out so quickly.
I mean, yeah, yeah, I mean, it's obviously not a good thing. Hopefully, it doesn't become a pattern. But I went to
Well, it kind of
VG
has been
charts.
with Sony. Like, they shut
Well,
down
how
resistant
many have they
servers.
shut down after a year?
Well, not a year, but like they have had a habit of shutting down servers. Actually, like the funny thing is, one of the only series I know of that are exclusive to Sony that haven't shut down is Killzone. Like Killzone 2 and 3 servers are still up and running. I don't know if it's because it's peer-to-peer or because Gorilla is insisting that they stay up because people are still playing, but they're still there, which is a very good sign for me since I'm such a fan of Shadowfall. But it still annoys the shit out of me to see a game like Gravity Rush get shut down, especially when it's such a minor thing. Like, what's next? Drive Club? Like, I mean, like people are still playing it, but they shut down that studio, and yeah. Or what's next? Rigs? Like, I mean, it's crazy. And
See,
like,
I don't think it's that crazy that they're doing this Gravity Rush because no, what I've heard about Gravity Rush since it came out, nothing, absolutely nothing. No
see,
one
I've
talking
heard a
about it, no one
lot.
commenting about it. Yeah, I haven't seen a peep out of it. And I quickly typed into VG charts, like it sold like 250,000 copies, and half of them
Hmm.
in Japan. So I don't know why Sony wouldn't even keep like one server plugged in for just a little leaderboard stuff, but I mean,
It's not Sony though. I mean, I'm sure Sony might have some say in it, but and I don't necessarily know what kind of connection there is between Studio Japan and Sony HQ or PlayStation HQ as a whole versus Sony HQ as a whole and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Gorilla has enough clout and money and resources coming in to be able to support continued server, you know, to be able to keep the servers online for even PS2 or PS3 games. But the last couple of Studio Japan games have not sold very well. So it's part sales for this game, but its part sales for previous games. Maintain The Last Guardian, Gravity Rush 1, the remastered one, Knack 1, and now Gravity Rush 2. I mean, some decent games, but just it's a bunch of them that are undersold. I mean, Knack 1 did okay due
Yeah, but a
to
lot of the
its.
games you mentioned like didn't have multiplayer, so it's not like their multiplayer server bills are high or anything. And plus, I mean, you mentioned games that sold a few million copies. Like Last Guardian's well over 1 million, Knack is over 2 million. I
But
mean,
after. Well, Knack is a little different because it was a launch title, so it got some extra, sales just due to the fact there weren't a lot of games to buy at the time.
plus that was 3 years ago
Um,
too. So,
The
I
Last
mean,
Guardian, even if it sold over 1 million, it took like 10 years to come out. So I know that they lost money on that project. There's very little doubt in my mind that they
that's
didn't.
not what Shuhei said. He said that it was because there were many
Shuhei
people
says a
like
lot of
you.
things to.
Yeah, but I mean, when has he been known to lie? And like, because there were many people like you, journalists, that asked him, this has been in development for a long time. You have to have spent a lot of money, and he was like, actually, no, this would typically be considered a pretty low budget project. Like, I mean, because like, and you can tell because I mean, it is a pretty simple game. Like, there are some aspects that are like very high production value, like the music and some of the graphics tech, but at the same time, it's a PS3 game, very small team. I like, there's not like a ton of mocap or ton like budget like that. It's pretty simple game. So no matter how long it took, I still have my doubts that it cost as much as a normal
Well,
10-year game would.
I mean, it's still 10 years of salaries and benefits and, paying for employees that wasn't getting paid for otherwise, except for out of pocket, hoping that the money would come someday.
Yeah. They
I
also
just,
did, cut ties with Ueda. He wasn't officially working at Sony for the last several years. Not to mention Team Ico is gone, basically. Um, and so, like, there's a lot of years where they weren't really in full development the way you would think.
and yet they were still, having to pay for people to have their jobs to be able to make the game. So whether it made a ton of money, no money, lost money, I don't think we'll ever really know. I kind of feel like it probably lost a decent amount of money for Sony, but just again a cultural thing. They felt the need to put it out no matter what, just because of how long it took and all the you know
Demand.
unfortunate circumstances surrounding its entire development. But aside from that, again back to Gravity Rush, due to that studio not exactly hitting anything, not having a home run release or anything like that. It had good releases, but it didn't. You know, Horizon for Gorilla made a shit ton of money. All Uncharted's make a shit ton of money for Naughty Dog. They can more than afford to keep those servers running for a long time. Studio Japan, with its most recent releases, good or not, are you know hitting home runs financially and critically and stuff like that. So, well, maybe critically, but not financially.
I still feel like we're making excuses for Sony to be shitheads to not only developers but also gamers.
It
I could care, like the server cost could not be that much, and the fact is they marketed their product as having this functionality, and they're giving up on it within a year.
I mean,
I
it's
just
shitty,
there's
but
no excuse if it sold 50,000 copies. I still don't see it as an excuse. Like you don't put server functionality or anything like that in your game if you can't support it.
well,
If
it
it
is
doesn't sell a ton. Like I mean, it's just not right.
the important thing is that as shitty as it is, at least platinum isn't being locked out of being attainable as a result of that. So content isn't exactly being lost like it is with most multiplayer games. So at least there's that. It's leaderboards, which is it sucks, but it could be worse. So I think the only thing really being lost is some like costumes or something like that, and leaderboards and some
Well, yeah,
challenges and stuff
leaderboards,
like that. So
challenges that people could send to each other. I mean, it's definitely something, and it's like there's no way the server cost could be that crazy just to have something simple like that. And they're
But
just
what if there is more upkeep than we think? What if there is?
well,
between
don't
the
put it in your
servers
game in the
themselves
first
and the
place then.
employees,
As far as like, don't put it in then. Like, it would be better for the game
So
to
you'd
be
rather,
completely offline
so
than
you would
to
rather have
take it
never
away
loved
for a
than to
stupid
have
reason
loved and
like that.
lost? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, there's still it's a different kind of love. It's like you're still getting no one would have been pissed off if it was an offline game when it launched. But people are pissed off that it wasn't an offline game when it launched and they're already giving up on it. That's the difference here. Like, no one would have complained if it was fully offline because the first one was fully offline. And the Gravity Rush Remastered was also fully offline. But to add in a function like that and then take it away just because it didn't sell a million copies, I mean, I think it's silly. Don't put that sort of thing in there if you can't afford to keep it up. Like, I don't think that's too much to ask. I mean, this is why I have a huge problem with always online games and any game that's that's all online based because they're glorified rentals. And this is a perfect example why a company can just shut it down whenever they want, and the consumers have really no recourse. I mean, I really hope that Sony gets sued for doing this sort of thing at some point
They
because
won't.
it's not right. Well, dude, somebody sued Sony and lost, rightfully, over Killzone Shadowfall's multiplayer not being native 1080p. The single player was, so they didn't lie. There was no false advertisement there. And then, but the multiplayer had a complicated technique to get a better frame rate, and then someone sued them over it. So I would not like. I hope somebody sues them, even if they don't win.
They won't win.
I just think there needs to be more backlash for this sort of thing.
Well, anything online related is the second you play something that's online, if you're not physically acknowledging or agreeing to a terms of service agreement that somewhere explicitly states at any time this online function will cease and there's nothing you can do about it. You have to either accept it or
You don't get to
you
play.
can't play online. Yeah, it's in everything that you go online with. So there is no recourse. There is no and nothing anyone could do. And it might suck, but oh well. At the same time, more people should have bought Gravity Rush, and this wouldn't be an issue. Especially given how
Yeah,
many
well,
people
maybe they shouldn't
wanted
have
it.
removed it from Vita like the way they did, which is another bullshit, shady thing they did, which is why I didn't buy it. But either way, I don't think it's right to. The game hasn't even been out for a year. You know,
It'll be out for a year by the time it goes away, though. Which
barely.
doesn't make it right or wrong, but it'll be out for a year. They said until January, and the game came out in December of last year, so a year and a month.
Oh well. Well, speaking of handhelds, our topic this week is handhelds. And Gravity Rush being canceled from the Vita when it was announced. I mean, Gravity Rush 2 when it was announced as a Vita title. No mention of PS4 when it was first announced, correct? Like, it was pretty sure it was just, well, that's kind of the way things that has been going for Vita in general. There's been less and less support. Luckily, the handheld market has definitely got a replacement, kind of. I would say it's a replacement because, unlike the 3DS, it is a bona fide console-on-the-go experience. I mean, in many ways, it's a better console-on-the-go experience than the Vita ever was. So it's definitely awesome, especially for the people who own it. I don't, but the future looks bright as far as handhelds go, especially for someone like me that has always wanted a console-on-the-go experience. I never liked the type of games that were on Game Boy or any of the other early handhelds, or even 3DS now, other than a few. But the PSP had some games that were basically home console games. Vita just as well. And now Switch is like, it is a home console. So I think in that way, handhelds are definitely doing well, and Switch is selling well. Maybe not so on Sony's end. And you're a Switch owner, Brian, so you could probably tell us better than anyone. Well, other than other Switch owners, I suppose, but you'd know better than I would. What do you think about the current state of the Switch and the handheld market in general?
Well, the Switch is doing really well, like you said. It's in constant high demand, and while it's getting a little easier to find them, at least firsthand in my area, I've definitely gone into stores and just seen them around, so they're not
Hmm.
super rare and uncommon. Um,
I saw them on Amazon once too recently.
yeah, they're pretty often available for a little bit on Amazon or Walmart or Target or something briefly before it sells out. But if you walk in a store, they're uncommon but not impossible to find anymore. So that's good, but it's still selling like hotcakes constantly because it's a solid console. I mean, it's
Hmm.
definitely missing some features that I wish it had. Um, I might be one of the few people in the world that actually wants a web browser on it for when I want to look something online, but I'm on the toilet, but I didn't bring my phone with me. But again, it's kind of a probably in the minority situations of that happening to most people. Um, as a, I can't. It's hard to gauge handheld success based on it because even Nintendo kind of wants to. Well, Nintendo is posturing it as a home console versus a handheld because they still have their own handheld and they don't necessarily want straight up competition. As a handheld
Hmm.
itself, though, it's good. I've played. There are a couple of games that I've basically played exclusively as handheld. Minecraft being one. SteamWorld Dig I've been playing a lot of over the last couple days since it came out last Thursday or Friday.
Hmm.
Exclusively on handle. I haven't put it in its in a dock at all, and it just functions really really well in that regard. Um, a game like Zelda or Mario when that comes out, or Xenoblade, probably you know more on TV than in handheld. But I also I appreciate the fact that it can go handheld at any point, which I will be doing with quite a bit for some of these games, especially when I go to see some family or something for the holidays, and I want to bring my Switch with me, and I have Mario to play and Zelda and Splatoon and all these other games. And most of them function about as well as they do in handheld mode. Obviously, some things are, very obviously smaller. Um, Graphically and performance-wise, things are worse in handheld mode, obviously, because you have. Actually, I honestly don't really know why. I assume the dock just boosts it, and there's less processing power that needs to go to the screen, so they can use that power to, you know, make the game look better.
Well,
Um,
it's mainly because the graphics card when it's in portable mode is significantly underclocked. I think the CPU stays the same, but I know the graphics card is like it's like it's 50% of the clock rate it is when it's docked. So that's why like there's a lot of games that are like 900p on when it's in the dock and then 720p when it's in handheld. Some might have like worse frame rate under certain situations or who knows, but it
yeah,
depends on the
it's
game. I mean, like Zelda, for example, when that first came out, it actually had the best performance on the handheld mode. Like it was 720p instead of 100, but it had like a locked 30 frame rate. Um, but like I think they fixed that because like the docked mode was having problems, just like in really weird situations that shouldn't have performance problems. So it could have just been like a simple glitch of some sort, or
well, the screen it just completely shuts off when it's docked. There is no
yeah.
it's off. So I assume whatever power is used to power the screen, both actually functioning as a monitor and a touchscreen as well. They can just redirect all that power to the CPU and GPU and make the games run better versus um, having to sacrifice to have it in handheld mode. But
Well, it's
either way,
it's
yeah,
mainly because of battery power. Like, because
that's fine.
it is still having to drive, even though it's not driving the tablet screen, it is driving a TV, which is quite a bit harder. on it, but like it's mainly because of battery power, and I mean to a certain extent, it's maybe heat. Like it can. Actually, I wouldn't even think that would be the case, but it's mainly battery power. Because if they had it as highly clocked as it is when it's in dock mode, it would burn out in like half the time, or close to it.
Right. But yeah, I mean, as a handheld, it's great. As a home console, it's great. I really enjoy mine, and I have bought more games for it than I bought for Wii U in the multiple years that I owned a Wii U. And well, you know, I don't. That's saying a lot because Wii U came out with a lot of good games over the course of its lifespan. But you know, just almost everything about the Switch is better. I wish that it had some kind of trophy achievement system, and it's possibly
Yeah.
coming, but we'll see in the future. But aside from that, I kind of disagree about handhelds and their strength and how well they're doing. I think Switch is kind of an exception right now because a lot of people it goes back and forth. You can either use it as a home console, you can use it as a handheld, so that double dipping benefits it and its sales, but I don't think they're necessarily accurate to see what the strength of handhelds are. 3DS has sold well,
Yeah.
but that's because Nintendo has kept putting games out for it, and they kind of turned it into a. I love my 3DS, but let's be real, it's underpowered and it's basically a toy with a new model coming out every 3 months. You know, a new look, a new model. There are now 4 different 3DSs, and 2 of them don't even have 3D on them, which is dumb. So, and even it has sold about a third of what DS did. So I think handhelds are definitely on the decline compared to what they were once upon a time ago because of smartphones and tablets and all these things that you know we carry with us in our pockets all the time that can play games, even if those games are garbage.
Yeah. For sure. I mean,
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna
to me,
lean.
that's a different market as well.
Yeah, I lean a bit more towards Brian's side. That handhelds, they don't. I don't know. They don't matter. To me, they don't matter 1%. Yeah, like I have a 3DS. My wife bought it because she wanted to play some Harvest Moon games, and I bought Pokemon X for it, and I played that on it. And like it's collected dust for like 2 years because we have smartphones now. And there were two big reasons for me. One, smartphones exist and they have games on them. And two, there's never a time where I'm out and about. Like I don't like ride like a subway somewhere where I'm like, well, I got 20 minutes to kill. Let me play The Legend of Zelda. It never happens in my life. There's if I'm in the house and I want to play a video game, I'm gonna play my PlayStation. And if I'm outside of the house, I'm not trying to play a video game by myself. I'm probably out doing something else like I don't know, with people, I guess. I don't know, whatever they're called, people. Like I remember when like the Nintendo Switch commercials came out, and they're having like millennial rooftop parties, and there are everyone's like watching like people play with these little like quick size controllers, and they're just having the best time ever. It's never happened, and it never will happen. That's not that most people that bought a Switch either they didn't have a Wii U yet or they just wanted to upgrade like Brian did because it gets a little bit better performance. I don't even know why I bought it. I don't know. Are you using your Switch on the go at rooftop parties and stuff like that?
I don't have friends, so no.
Rooftop parties. It's true. They did do that for. It's still fun.
I know. No, they did it because this is gonna be what brings people together. We're gonna have 15 people over and watch this dude play Sonic. Like, no, that's not what it's for.
They were playing NBA together, okay?
I don't know what they're
At their
doing.
hip rooftop party in a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, in New York City on the roof, watching other people play video games, and the people who are watching look like they're having more fun than the people that are playing. Like, everyone's they're having a great. It's an afternoon. It's not even a nighttime party. It's like a picnic. Yeah, but like handhelds know what they get used for most of the time. The parents throw them in their kid's hand because they just want them to be quiet in the grocery store. That's when I've seen it. They'll be a family shopping in Target and the kid's playing a game on his DS, and, and that's what it's used for. 'Cause if an adult is going to play a game on the go, on the run, I'm whipping out my phone and I'm just going to play a little something on that. I don't need to its own concentrated system. I don't need to bring my phone, which plays games, and a much bigger device to also play games. If I want to like game super hard, I don't know, while I'm driving, I don't know where I'd be by myself wanting to play a game. I'm not surprised that handhelds are dying and they're selling less because phones exist and everyone has phones and tablets everywhere. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think handhelds they're just gonna sell less and less because phones are cheaper and easier and simpler and yeah. I just think they're for the DS is for shutting kids up in the grocery store. That's my experience with it. That's it.
That's that's actually the most I've ever seen a DS. I have one, but I am also probably, I don't want to say not in the norm, but a lot of my handheld gaming now, and for a while now, has been primarily at night when, you know, I don't know why. My wife wanted me in bed, but she didn't want me playing on the TV while I was trying to sleep, so that
Yeah,
just kind of gravitated towards me playing, DS or PSP or Vita or something like that.
yeah,
And I've never actually, not since I was, a little kid with my old Game Boy Color, have I actually played a handheld on the go in any way, shape, or form. That's always been, it's always been at home. That being said, I am finding more uses for them now. In case my kid wants to watch some cartoons on the TV,
hmm
I'll whip out my, Switch or 3DS or not so much Vita anymore, but something like that to be able to play those games while he watches his cartoons using my PlayStation on Amazon or something like that. And that's about it. But I also really still love a lot of games that Nintendo puts out on the 3DS. Between all the recent like Dragon Quest games on 3DS and um, I still buy every Pokemon when it comes out, and most recently Samus Returns. Fucking excellent Metroidvania game, obviously being one half of the formula to be a Metroidvania. I've been playing a lot of that, and it's still great. Like, for a while, my Vita had a lot of use. For a long time now, my 3DS has had a lot of use. And when I have a new game that I want to play on Switch that I don't want to stop playing, I'll bring it with me. But even then, basically, I use it as a home console that I just play at home, just in my hands.
yeah. And you guys both own a Vita. Why did both of you buy the Vita?
Because it's awesome.
It's
And I
awesome.
needed a replacement for the PSP.
I love PSP. I thought it was a really great system, especially towards the end of its life when it became a JRPG machine.
See,
And
I'm the opposite of you guys. I only do mobile gaming when I'm on the go. Well, I mean, with my handheld, at least. I never use it at home, really, unless it's to, like, install a game or something. But phones, yeah, like, I still, like, just don't see them as a replacement at all. Like, I know you said you actually use them. I do sometimes, too, but they're just like, every time it's just like, man, if this game had, like, some legit physical controls, it would be a million times better. And there's just like a million games that I have on Vita that are just so much better than anything that's on a phone, um, or almost anything. But yeah, so for
almost
me, I
yeah.
am happy with like the fact that Switch has had so much success because Switch is exactly what I want from a handheld. And PSP was to a certain extent too because it, similar to Switch, And unlike the Vita, which is one of the reasons why I didn't buy a Vita right away, because I was pretty pissed about this, but the PSP used to plug into a TV. And I thought that was a really cool thing. So it's like if you ever wanted to play a PSP game on TV, you could. You know, if there's maybe like a game that was like a little more difficult and you wanted to have like a better view, which is something sometimes I actually need. My eyesight's not the best, and those screens are tiny on the PSP. Even the Vita, in my opinion, the screen is too small. Um, so it's like that was like a cool function that I wanted all handhelds to have. Like after having it with PSP, unfortunately the Vita lost it, but Switch got it back in a much bigger way. Like I think the Switch has nailed what the Vita should have been, and I'm happy about it because it's not just like a home console on the go. It's literally a home console. So if Nintendo keeps that idea going, I will be absolutely happy with it, and I'll definitely get one at some point because obviously there's not going to be a Vita 2, um, unfortunately. But yeah, 3DS though, not for me. Mobile gaming, not for me. Like I would very much rather play my Vita. I'll pull out my Vita anywhere really. Um, Subway, train. I mean, usually not the subway, but usually like I take the commuter rail a lot, which is like it's
Yeah,
like a hour
like a
long
full
ride.
train.
Or if I'm on a break from work, which is often. Sometimes I might have an hour lunch or just an hour between shifts or something, and that's the main reason I bought the Vita actually, because I was like sick of getting these hours for lunch or whatever, eating for 15 minutes and then having nothing to do. And the PSP was kind of start to not cut it, so I was like, you know what, I should finally get a Vita. I did, and I've been extremely happy with it up until when the stupid memory card decided to die on me, which was really horrible. I'm still pissed about that because it's a $90 memory card. I don't want to replace it because it's like the same thing could happen, and it sucks because it's like now so many of my games are uninstalled, and it sucks because it's like there's a lot of great games on there that I want to play, but it's like I can't even be bothered to make space for it, then install it. Like I don't know how people with Vitas like got by with just like a 16 gigabyte card. Like I know a lot of people like will stick
I
to
still do.
just one game or something. I can't do it. I just feel so much better when my whole collection is intact, which is why I have a 5 terabyte hard drive on my PS4 because I never want to run out of space on it. I'd rather just everything be there, even stuff that I don't play or demos that take up way too much space that I play once. I don't care. I just want space as much possible. I want everything there installed. That's it. Like so. Yeah, it's crazy to me that some people like don't have big memory cards on their Vita. But like that's another great thing about the Switch is it uses micro SD, so you don't have to spend $100 on a 64 gigabytes. You can actually get one for under 20. All the games are bigger, for sure, especially with Doom coming up. But that actually brings me to my next point. Doom and Wolfenstein 2. That's another example of why I'm like pretty excited about the Switch because it's like it getting third-party support, especially such great games like that from Bethesda. That's a good sign. And although I know there's a lot of publishers that they're not gonna look at Switch at all. Like they're not gonna bother at all. But the fact that a company like Bethesda will is definitely a good thing because Bethesda typically produces great games, and those two games are perfect examples of that. So it's like being able to play those on the go, being able to play Rocket League on the go. I mean, that, like right there, those would be better than any game I have on the Vita, in my opinion. And not to mention Zelda. In my opinion, I think the Switch is basically the best handheld ever. Like already, even though I don't even own one. Just based on the few games it has, to me, it couldn't be better. Like there's nothing better. In other words. But yeah, but I'm also not into like a lot of those like Game Boy or other like simple stuff that you guys are into. So I don't know if you would agree, but yeah, I would definitely like to get a Switch at some point because, like I said, I do think it's the best handheld. But yeah, $300.
And there
Is
will
this
not be
Switch
any
only
Black Friday
300 bucks?
deals.
What's that?
I was saying, is the Switch only 300 bucks?
300
Hmm.
Hmm.
4 packs.
How much can you get a Wii U now for?
Like
Probably
not
brand new.
not that cheap.
I don't know, they might go up in price soon since they've been discontinued.
Oh, they have. Even used ones, I think, are well over 100.
150 to 2. I
Yeah.
think, I don't really remember. I sold mine on Craigslist for 2, and I was okay with
Damn.
that.
So yeah, at this point, it's kind of like a no-brainer to uh, get the
This was after I got the
Switch.
Switch already, though, so I had no need for a Wii U still.
Yeah, I mean
But
there are a couple games that are not on Switch and aren't going to it, right? But not that many, and probably ones you've played already, right?
I wouldn't mind double dipping with Xenoblade Blade Chronicles X.
This is what I
I
was
don't
gonna
know,
say. Yeah.
but then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is coming out real soon, so I'll still get a Xenoblade RPG. The entire life cycle of the Wii U, people were clamoring for a Metroid Prime 4. It's coming to Switch in the future. People have been begging for a Pokemon game. It's coming to Switch. Switch, Switch is in good shape right now. And even though it may not have the most third-party support, and some third-party support is going to just dwindle
Mhm.
or not be quite as obviously supported as PS4 or Xbox due to the ever increasing gap in power, especially when PS5 comes out in a couple of years here. I'm sure publishers and developers and everyone are looking at the Switch and seeing that it's doing pretty well and it's pretty successful. And Bethesda is supporting it really well, so they're looking at games like Skyrim and Doom and Wolfenstein and seeing how they sell. And if Doom or Wolfenstein sell well, then it's the potential is there for other third-party games to then come. Because I really think if it's possible to run well on a lower end PC, then a Switch can easily run it. It's definitely stronger than a PS3. Not quite as strong as a
Yeah.
PS4 or Xbox, but
Yeah, definitely not.
at the same time, if a game is able to run 30 frame locked at 720, that's good enough for anything that's supposed to be in handheld, for example.
Yeah.
I think third party support will be pretty good. I mean, we've already gotten quite a bit of third party support already, and I think it'll just get better and better as Switch sells. I mean, you've had one really, really big game come out, and it's arguably not even the biggest game this year because we still have Mario coming out soon.
Huh.
So we'll see. I mean, the most important thing is the Wii U only lasted as long as it did because of Nintendo first party and its games.
Yep.
I mean, that off the bat means that Switch is going to be healthy for a long time because we're going to get Metroid and Pokemon coming out, and Kirby and Yoshi games are coming out, and maybe we'll see new IP, but we'll also see some classic Nintendo franchises coming back. I mean, I think depending on how well Samus Returns sells, we'll see more Samus in a lot of 2D fashion. That's not called Other M. In case you didn't know, that was a very poorly received game because it made Samus out to be a weak one. Um, but again, the Switch is kind of the exception due to it being half handheld, half home console. So a lot
Yeah.
of people can play as a handheld, a lot of people can play it as a home console. Versus 3DS is probably on its last legs. I mean, they're getting rid of the 3D functionality in the new 2DS just to make it cheaper, and because I have to assume not a lot of people use the 3D functionality. The games are still coming out and they're still really good, but I'm sure Nintendo is looking at Switch as well, and it makes more sense to focus more on it and amiibos and stuff like that, where all the money really is now.
Yeah. And I'd say that's a good thing because I know you guys love 3DS, but I don't. So
I don't love it. I have it, and I know like there's a few good games for it that I don't have, but I know I'll never play it, so I don't know. No. I think it's fine. It's a big old pile of okay.
It's
huh?
on par with most other handhelds.
Oh,
Then
okay.
again, most other handhelds have been Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS. They all had really good games because, well, I love JRPGs and Nintendo handhelds have always attracted JRPGs. Same thing with PSP.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons I prematurely bought Vita. I assumed it would turn into a JRPG machine, which it kind of has now. Um,
Yeah, that's like practically all it's been getting lately.
and
Yeah.
Game Boys and Nintendo handhelds have always got Nintendo games. I mean, the Mario Game Boy and DS games and stuff like that were great. Um, the Zelda Game Boy games were some of the best Zelda games, period. They kind of went off the rails with the DS ones, I think, just because the control scheme was whack as shit, but that's my personal opinion. Nintendo handhelds have always been good. I, my, in my opinion, the biggest issue that Vita had was not only the lack of games and support, but the lack of sure fire seller games. I mean, where was God of War on Vita? That would have sold well, I think. Where was an infamous game that was rumored for a long time? And I have to imagine if Sucker Punch hasn't said anything in a while, that they kind of toyed with it for a little bit before amending it. I'm sure Infamous game would have sold pretty well on Vita. It seems like a great platform
Yeah.
for it. Um, you had Call of Duty and Resistance, but they were garbage because they were made by the same developer.
Yeah, and they were
And
kind of
well,
rushed, and yeah, like they weren't the right developer for it.
yeah, and Call of Duty was arguably one of the Vita's biggest games coming out, and it
Mhm.
sold. It just didn't turn out very well. So
I mean, the funny thing is, it's still one of the most popular as far as like online play for sure. Never have trouble finding players on it, which it's funny because everyone says it's so terrible, but I don't know. Like to me, it's like a 5 out of 10 game. Like
well, if
it's
you were
still kind of like Black Ops on the go, which is kind of a cool thing. But yeah, no, they definitely fucked up the single player. That is for sure. The single player is awful. I mean, I don't even know if you could call it, or if it's more just like a co-op mode with little challenges. It's it's really like such an afterthought. But yeah, like those are definitely two big reasons why the Vita kind of fell apart before it even got started. Well, but also Sony, giving up on it very quickly like it always does. That's just what they do when things don't succeed right away.
well, they gave it
And
like 2 or 3 years. It just, I
eh,
think, I think the lukewarm reaction after Call of Duty was what started sealing the deal. I mean, people complain about the memory cards, but while kind of expensive and annoying, it wasn't that big of a deal
yeah, I agree.
because people had to pay $30, $40 for PlayStation 1 and 2 memory cards, and that wasn't a big deal at the time. PS2 still was one of the best-selling consoles ever.
Plus,
Um,
the PSP memory sticks were about the same price as far as how many games you could store on. Like a lot of people forget that, and it well actually I bought them in 2009, which was like a few years after, the PSP was in its heyday. So like when that first came out, I would be willing to bet that there was actually more expensive at one point than buying a Vita card for the same amount of game storage.
Yeah, I mean, the Vita, in hindsight, was it felt really good in your hands, which
Yes.
is important. The PSP was okay. The 3DS is terrible. Um, well, in my opinion, at least. You had things like trophy support was great on a handheld. That was not revolutionary, but that was a pretty big deal for a lot of people who cared about that sort of thing at the time,
Hmm.
and that sure helped. Um,
Also, like the UI and stuff was like a huge step up over PS3 even, and I think that was another cool thing about the Vita. But it's not like the type of thing to sell
Totals.
any consoles. But it is like a good thing, like having party chat when PS3 didn't is like it's pretty funny. I mean, it's really more comparable to the PS4's UI. Um, it's like only missing a couple things really.
Yeah, I think it was just it came
Well,
out at the
I
wrong
mean,
time.
before
Came
they
out,
removed support for some key apps, that is, which they
yeah,
did.
but it between smartphone gaming and the 3DS getting cheaper and
Yeah.
just there's literally a million of reasons why Vita didn't do well at the end. I mean, library is not it. I will contend to the day I die that for the longest time, Vita and 3DS had comparable libraries to one another.
I
Just
think though if the Call of Duty was good and they got a GTA game, well, two GTA games like PSP did, I think that Vita would have been probably sold twice as many like units as it did. Like, I think it would have been a much bigger success if they had those two games in its library. But it's like it's not a bad library either. I think it's just that it didn't have the system sellers it needed really. That PSP arguably had.
everyone kind of expected. I mean,
Yeah,
where was the Grand Theft Auto? Where was the
Metal Gear
infamous? Where was
Solid,
the God of War?
God of War. Yeah, there's two of them on PSP. Shit.
Yeah. So I don't want to say it was ahead of its time or anything like that, but it was definitely the result of some poor circumstances surrounding a number of different factors, and
Mhm.
that's why we're never going to get a Vita 2 or a PSP 2 or anything like that. And there's no need for Sony to go the route of Switch because PS4 is doing so well now.
Yeah, for sure.
Wii U didn't do well at all. Wii U did worse than Vita, so of course they needed to do something different with Switch, and so far it's working out really well for them.
Mhm.
Sony doesn't need to. Sony is successful on its own right now with the PS4, so home consoles are their thing. Handhelds have always been Nintendo's strong suit, and that's probably not going to change.
Yeah, and it's like I hope they keep the idea of the Switch going too for many years. Like if there's a Switch 2, that would be great. Like if that's what Nintendo did forever while Microsoft and Sony just make home consoles, I'd be happy. As long as the home consoles aren't digital only consoles, then I'll be pissed.
Mm.
Or even worse, online consoles. I don't think that'll ever happen. Like people have floated that idea, but it's never going to happen. The internet is never going to be able to get rid of the a huge amount of lag that'll be inherent in that. Even if they put a server in every single city in the world, it would still be much more lag than we're used to, and I don't think that would be a success. Like I don't think that would ever. There's always going to be a demand for home consoles, in my opinion.
Not to mention the fact that everything Nintendo first party is still very much based out of Japan.
Yep.
So unless Nintendo wants to change up a lot of stuff, a lot of their online will still be based out of Japan. I think it still is. I mean, there's location-based matchmaking for games like Splatoon and stuff like that, but you still get some lag with stuff like downloading things off the eShop, and I don't know if it's necessarily because the games are being downloaded in Japan. I doubt it, but still everything is based out off that country.
I know this has nothing to do with handheld stuff, but did either of you guys play the Fortnite Battle Royale this week?
Not yet.
I have it downloaded,
Yes.
but I haven't touched it yet.
Same here.
I went into a match. I was alive for 10 minutes. I died, and I said, "Okay, I've got my fill."
Yeah,
I know
it's
I'm not a big multiplayer guy, so I doubt I'll be playing it for hundreds of hours. But I'll give it half an hour. I'll give it a round or two.
I mean, if you want to play PUBG, then it's PUBG.
Yeah.
It's a little cartoony, and you could build stuff, but it's definitely PUBG. I just want to keep
interesting.
saying PUBG.
Well, I think we're off the topic. That's a good sign to wrap it up.
PUBG. PUBG should come to Switch. PUBG.
PUBG. I don't even know who PUBG is. Fuck that guy. But all right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
Like technically, it would just be Pa.
Yeah, he's player
Or
unknown. Yeah, he's
Even
Boo.
better. He's
He's
a couple
Boo,
letters
he's not
short
Pa,
of
he's
pussy.
Boo.
Just Boo.
He's a couple letters short of pussy, which is what he is. Nah, I don't even know the guy.
No.
That's pretty cool actually what he's done. I mean, got to give him all the credit in the world. I'm just talking shit. Like
We're off the air. We're off the air. No, fuck him.
actually, I am still broadcasting, but this part will get clipped out.